Today's episode is brought to you by the Blackwatch Report.
It's high noon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I am your host, The Blevins. With me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. And joining us today, because we needed a little bit of expert help for the path to pro and all the prospects, is none other than host of the Blackwatch Report, Kyle Wynn. What's up, man? Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I was like the merger episode, the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour of podcast.
Yeah, the Flintstones meets the Jetsons crossover episode. Everyone always loves those. But yeah, we're going to be talking about some tier 2 prospects that we may be seeing in this signing period coming up for season 2. Maybe some of these players are going to be leading expansion teams. Who knows? But we will be talking about that in just a bit. But let's talk about what's been going on in the world of High Noon Productions. Kyle, you're here. Let's hear what's Blackwatch Report been up to.
I don't even know. No, so I did another Blackwatch breakdown of Fusion University's like epic comeback against Toronto Esports because it was like almost really scary. They went down 0-2 and then came back. So I broke that down in the Blackwatch breakdown that's on YouTube now. We got normal show on Wednesday. Right after that, we have Kate and Dogman from LNL on to talk about their season and the moving forward and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think we have something special in the pipeline, but I can't officially say what it is just yet because I don't know if Thorn has officially solidified it in stone yet. So be looking for something cool coming after as well.
Yeah, maybe if Thorn can give the official confirmation in chat at some point during the episode, maybe we can tease it out. But
it's pretty hype, though.
It is pretty hype.
It is pretty hype. I'm excited for it.
Yeah. Speaking of pretty hype, Around the Payload came back last week. We had iPlay games from I'll Recap, and from Omnic Lab we had Frito from Your Overwatch, Saber Reality, and the Monkey Prince on. Another really great episode. I feel like we've built up enough like veterans of ATP to like welcome in the new people, and most of the new people like they kind of get it because everyone like there's people when it was all new people, everyone's kind of a little bit nervous and they're not sure how the show goes. But if you know me and know how much of a clown I am and how much the show and the game doesn't matter at all, you just let it rip and it's great. So it's really kind of ATP's been getting to a point where it's kind of running itself, which is really great. We're going to be having another episode next week with some great guests as well. And speaking of some great guests, we actually have, we're kicking off the High Noon Hot Seat again. We're going to be doing a little series here with some of the Overwatch League talent, and who else to open that one off than Hexagrams. Hexagrams is going to be here Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, just so the normal time of High Noon Podcast, but on Wednesday. We're going to be talking to him about Overwatch League season, some of his background leading up to it, and all of that good stuff, what he sees going into the future. I've got a couple other people from the Overwatch League talent desk and casting crew and all that stuff lined up, but we'll keep those ones a secret until they're coming up. But Hexagrams is this Wednesday, so if you have questions for him, throw them in the hot seat question. Yeah, we have a hot seat questions, don't we? Hot seat question section? I think so.
Yeah.
Go on to the
occasionally for stuff.
Yeah. We've got the hot seat questions in the Discord, which is discord.me/High Noon Podcast. Go over to the hot seat suggestions for Hexagrams. I think you did. I think you did like a long time ago, probably. But yeah, and then we're also going to be. So I pitched it a little bit differently. So we're actually going to have like kind of a live section at the end. So it's going to be a little more Twitch friendly. So you're definitely going to want to be there to be able to ask him questions live, as well as get some of them in beforehand as well. So that's really hype. Hot Seat is going to be in full force in the coming weeks. So definitely keep an eye out and an ear out for all of that stuff. So last week I mentioned we had new patron hype from Brian C, who got his message in. So as promised, we will read that. He actually did mention that he was one of the guys that we met at New York. So that was awesome. Yeah. It was good meeting you. It was that, well, I mean, we talked extensively for 2 or 3 episodes already about how awesome the event was. So we don't need to go back to that. But thanks for the patronage. And of course, you guys can always support us over at patreon.com/highnoonpodcast as well. His message is, thank you, NYXL, for making me a fan of 2 teams known for choking. Diva Mains forever. Kick Rocks Hit Scan. So
listen, the only thing I'll say to that is that team was known for choking long before they joined the Overwatch League.
Yes, but did he care about them before they joined the Overwatch League is the question.
I guess that's true. That's still NYXL's fault as an organization.
Sure is. Yeah, I mean, you bare hand sleeves and it all goes to crap. But let's move on here and go to my favorite segment of the show, which we'll cue sometime today.
Overwatch Today meme of the week.
This meme of the week is, I think, Deathblow, I think you may have actually caused this action to happen.
It's possible. I can't confirm or
so
deny.
we talked for a whole episode about how egregious it was that Prophet wasn't in the All-Star game. I mean, we also talked about why it was egregious he wasn't on the Overwatch World Cup team. But we've still got time for that to happen. But now Prophet is going to be in the All-Star game because apparently Birdring is still recovering from an injury. No. They were scared. They knew that we were after him. It was a whole episode of us talking and then another episode of Around the Payload just being like, you guys are dumb. Put him in. What are you doing? What is wrong with you? Why is he not in? And then all of a sudden, right after the episodes air, all of a sudden, he's on the team. So
you're welcome, Overwatch community.
Yeah.
I feel like I did that one.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. It should have been there the whole time.
Yeah.
Now they just had to use it.
Setting things to rights.
Yeah, they took a PC way to cover. Birdring stubbed his toe again. Yeah. So, let's move on here to. Oh, lost my button.
It's
News. We actually got a couple of big pieces of news. We've got a big piece of actual news, a rumor, and then a less exciting but still important piece of news. The biggest one, we talked about it on Around the Payload because it happened literally minutes before we went live, was Siegel stepping down from the Dallas Fuel to pursue streaming instead of playing. A lot of people... I feel like it's been mostly positive. It's been positive, the reception around him. I think everyone kind of understands. But Death, what do you think? Is this good for him? I mean, we kind of talked about this in the past. About it's kind of weird. We weren't even necessarily sure we were going to see him in the Overwatch League. What do you think about this?
Well, listen, I can't answer that for him, right? Ultimately, it's a personal decision. It's got to be what he wants to be doing, and he's got to believe in what he's doing. So, for the sake of giving him the benefit of the doubt, I'll say, yeah, as long as it works out. I mean, the guy gets to have a career playing video games, right? He's a popular enough streamer; he can do it full time and support himself. That's only going to grow, considering that's always been kind of his second love and his second passion and his second pursuit. I'm really excited to see what he's going to be able to do with his stream, with his following, and with his personal brand once he throws himself fully into it, kind of puts the esports stuff aside. But with that said, looking at his performance on the Dallas Fuel, it was a rough season, and I get, maybe considering taking a step back from that, but to me, he was a highlight. Even in their really bad first 3 stages, I thought he was the one player, I said it a lot, that showed up consistently week in, week out, performed. He switched roles. He never missed a beat. To go from Junkrat Pharah, Genji projectile player into a Diva main, back into a projectile player, all within the course of one season, is a lot to ask of a player. He handled it He was a consummate professional on a team that had players that were considerably less than that at many times during the season.
No
You know,
comment. No comment. No comment.
he was really he was really kind of a poster boy for what you want an Overwatch League player to be, and you know, from all aspects too. That's, like I said, that's play on the stage, that's performance off the stage, everything like that. So I'm definitely sad to see him step down. Yeah, I don't really have too much other to say than that. You know, as somebody that watches esports a lot more than streaming, I feel like I lost a player instead of gained a streamer. But you know, at the end of the day, it's got to be the right decision for him, and I definitely wish him all the best and all the luck he can find himself in the streaming world. So.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that this does do is it opens up spots for other players, and that's kind of, Kyle, that's where you come in. What do you think about this as a whole? Like Siegel leaving, and then, you know, maybe some of your favorite Contenders players might have an extra spot on the Dallas Fuel now.
It definitely makes sense for him on a business perspective. Obviously, you're making more streaming if you have the following that Siegel does. It just makes more financial sense in the long run, because there's a chance that you could have an even worse, you know, season 2, and then your name is completely like tarnished, and no one's going to give you a spot because you all in on, you know, esports Siegel as opposed to streaming Siegel. So it's definitely safer, smarter, better in the long run, but worse for all of us who wanted to see him as one of like the best divas. And I think stage 4 he was top in a bunch of different things. But it definitely does open up the spot. I think that Dallas have a bit of a diva issue. Mickey has been decent-ish. Obviously, there's some room, you know, for improvement on his part, but I think there's opportunities whether you pull from their associated Team Envy team for a player like McGravy, who is not only just a solid off tank as a whole, but he's also really big on communication as well. If you watched in Contenders Season 0, I think it was, when they beat Rogue, he was really, really, really big on the comms, and I think that if that's what your team is looking for, he's always a solid pickup for there. But maybe you go full Korean tank line at this point as well. There's tons of options there. But
yeah, we'll talk more about some of the other specific players a little bit later in the show. The only thing I would say about this whole thing, I guess I have a couple of things. I don't, you know, people are like, oh, you know, this is good for Siegel, makes sense for him financially, you know, he's such a big streamer, et cetera, et cetera. It's like, for Siegel, that's good for him, but how does that make the league look? That, like, the league itself is such a, either it's a financial burden, like he's not getting paid enough, or it's such a stressful environment that even if he is making the same or more money, it's not worth it for him. That, like, the dream, like, how many people that are in our Discord right now would cut off one of their arms or their foot? They would cut off their foot to be able to play in the Overwatch League. The arm doesn't make sense. No, they get superpower with the one arm. No, they cut off their foot or something to be the Overwatch League. It's a lot.
Is my job. Take my arm. I don't care.
Exactly.
The only thing I want to say about that, though, is I categorically deny that it makes financial sense. It's financially more stable, yes, because esports, you're going to have a shorter career. But with the trajectory of the league, the success of the first season, I'm not willing to concede that he's going to make more money moving into being a streamer. When in the grand scope of Twitch, now in the Overwatch game, he's up at the very top. In the grand scope of Twitch, he is not.
Right.
I would venture to guess, you know, Ninja and
well,
Shroud,
they're in a different
they're in a different galaxy from the rest of the content creators in the world right now. But yeah, I don't necessarily just say, you know, if anything, to me, if this makes anybody look bad, it's the Dallas Fuel, and it's, you know, coupled a little bit by the frustrations of, like, Siegel's never found success. It hasn't been the Overwatch.
It's true. It was the curse. It was the curse.
NRG.
You know, yep.
Everything he's done, it's never been on a winning team. And when you look at it, it's never felt like it's his fault. And I think that just kind of has weighed on him as a whole. And I think that would weigh on anybody. You see it in traditional sports all the time. You know, you don't get involved in something like this. You don't get this good at a video game without being a very, very competitive person that wants to succeed, wants to win. You don't get into tournaments without a drive to really try to take them down. And I think he just, I don't even know for sure that we're done seeing Siegel in Overwatch League. I'll say that much. But I think he just needed to step back, take a break. And if he's the guy I think he is, and obviously I never met him, don't know him in real life to know this is true. But the impression I get is that, this is really what he wanted to be doing. And I think if somebody wants him and reaches out to him, I think there's a really good, pays him. I think there's a really good chance that we do see him come back. But obviously, nothing I'm betting on until we actually see him.
Yeah, the other point I was going to make is actually related to that, though, is as someone who played high school sports and knew from a very young age that I didn't even want to try to do college sports just because I was done at the time. After a year or a couple of years, you kind of look back and you're like, man, I almost kind of wish I would have stayed in it, because you probably can in Overwatch League, but more so than being able to be like, oh, I'm just going to go back and I'm just going to get back in shape and be a pro basketball player or something like that. It's even if he has the option technically to go back to an Overwatch League team, is he going to be is streaming and playing on Twitch going to be the same level that these top level contenders players are? Why would I want to pick up Siegel if I'm a new team?
Well, you're gonna have a bit of an issue with.
In 2 years, I mean.
Yeah, it depends on the hours he puts in. It's something I'm feeling right now as I'm kind of debating: do I start trying to take tryouts to play on Masters teams again, or something like that with the off season? I feel rusty. I feel out of place in team comms, and it's that sort of thing. But I don't think he's gonna stop playing enough that his mechanics are gonna dip. He's the kind of player that, and very specifically, I think one of the reasons his stream is successful is because of his skill and how good he is at the game. So I think he'll continue to do the min-maxing kind of things that you expect pro players to do with his mechanics. And then from there, it's just, what does it take? A week, a month? It depends on the player, a stage, depending on how long he sits out before he's back in the swing of things from a strategical standpoint and from a communication standpoint. So I think in video games, as long as you don't put the game down, as long as you keep playing the game itself, I think you can reasonably step out, step back in, not have too long of a redevelopment period. It
is definitely going to be it's almost, I guess it's not unprecedented in sports, but we also haven't seen in the modern era a sport be around for exactly 1 year. We haven't seen the inception of one yet.
Michael Vick went to jail for a little while and then came back and played quarterback in the NFL. So it's far from unprecedented. It's also far from commonplace.
True. Well, we'll definitely be keeping tabs on Siegel as we go on. Although, he's not in Overwatch League, so should we be docking points from people on or on the payload if they talk about Siegel?
That depends on how many questions I get asked about how good would a team be if he were to join them. And, for now, no. But probably. We'll probably get there, and I'll get sick of it because of how big his fan base is and how loyal they are to him. They'll all want him to come back.
Speaking of which, next topic: what if Dufran is okay? No, JK.
5 points for
but actually, I have no points. I only give them out. But I guess speaking of new teams and how new teams might be able to use Siegel or Dufran, we have a rumor here that let me preface this with, if this rumor is not true and it was reported by. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was over.gg was the source. Well, it wasn't the source of the rumor, but was the site that reported the rumor from source. If this isn't true, I am going to take every step I possibly can to take down over.gg because that this type of tease is not acceptable. But this
would be, as much as I would also be debated by it, I would do everything in my power to defend them and protect them against your slander, sir. Because the amount of debate on you would just be...
It's not slander. I'm going to be using facts and real things to take them down. I'll call Slasher up and be like, I need this person taken out. That's not how that works. Slasher. No, I don't have Slasher's number. I don't have Slasher's number.
A slasher, yeah.
I don't have Slasher's number. But this rumor, I didn't even say what the rumor was. The rumor here is that one of the teams for season 2 is going to not only be based in Toronto, but may also be managed or in some way connected with Splice, which, as we've mentioned before, is a Western New York company. Their headquarters is about 40 minutes away from where myself and Deathblow are sitting right now. So all of the things coming in, like everything that I could have possibly wanted, wrapped up into one perfectly Toronto package, is rumored to be happening. And again, if this isn't true, I am going to use every power I have to troll and destroy and take down Over.gg. But yeah, on a more serious note, although I am dead serious. On a more serious note, does this make sense for what we're suspecting here for the 6 teams? Like, does this regionality make sense, Death, for the new teams?
I mean, I certainly think so. We've been talking about them on our short list of cities that had a really good chance. Mm-hmm. I did when Atlanta happened. I lost a little faith because I thought Seattle was, just a little bit more likely. But yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at our kind of area, and Toronto's going to be able to hit and be the closest team for a lot of major northeastern cities. It's going to be hard to break into the fan base of NYXL after the really good first season that they had. But if they, listen, if you guys can get Blevins to jump ship, you can get anybody to jump ship.
I'd like to put it out there that I have said since the beginning that if there was a Toronto or a Buffalo team, I would be forced to be fans of them. I'm just saying.
That's true. You definitely said that. So you're covered there.
I am covered.
However, you're still held liable to the wearing the NYXL hat
no,
every single day of your life.
Well, me not wearing the NYXL hat will just curse the NYXL, which if they're in the same division as Toronto, I don't care about it anymore.
It's going to curse you though.
I'm not,
because that was like your personal bet to me.
I have.
It wasn't even like a pact with.
Okay, this is what will happen. This is what will happen. I'll wear a Toronto Tempest or whatever the team ends up getting called hat, and I'll have my NYXL pin on there because NYXL will still be. No, it doesn't matter if you take the deal. I'm taking it.
Put the damn hat on, jerk. Anyways, I think it's great. The East Coast is. I mean, both coasts are pretty clogged with teams at the moment when you consider them. I don't know that one is. I haven't sat down and counted them out. I need more than 2 hands to get to 12, so I couldn't have done it if I wanted to. Anyways, but yeah, I think it's fine. I don't see any issues with regionality. We're still going to get the East or the European and the Asian teams that the league desperately needs. And then I think Canada deserves a spot and to have a team here as well. So from that standpoint, I'm happy that Toronto got in over Seattle because I think it's going to do a lot for the Canadian fan base and the Canadian player base, the aspiring teams that are trying to break in here. So, yeah, I think it's great.
Yeah, Kyle, what do you think about Toronto? Obviously, you don't have the same sort of attachment that we do to Toronto, but...
I'm a West Coaster, so seeing Atlanta and then seeing Toronto is a little bit of a East Coast is getting more good teams possibly. And so I am stoked to see a Canada team. I was expecting Vancouver, but Toronto makes about as much sense for me. I think it's cool. I don't really have a really strong opinion. I don't think I'm going to necessarily jump ship to go on the Toronto boat.
I'm literally going to be going on the Toronto boat around the island. That's what I'm going to be doing.
I'm going to go for whatever roster. I'll probably stay with Houston unless there's like a super duper cool roster announced. So
like the Toronto Runaways.
Yeah,
they'll have to do something for me.
And for what it's worth for everybody, Toronto, listen, they're not even guaranteed my fandom at all yet.
Right. If anything, you hate Toronto.
That damn city's tried to steal my football team way more times than they have any.
For what it's worth, that was Bon Jovi specifically that tried to steal.
Yeah, well, he's dead to me, and I will burn any Bon Jovi album I ever lay my hands on. But nonetheless, and the other thing that needs to happen is listen, and I know already because I triggered him in Discord, and slightly worried about the branding of a Canadian team, and the reason is because I don't like the branding of any Canadian team that exists in professional sports right now. The Toronto Raptors is the only one that's kind of okay.
I like the I like the old Raptors, not the new one.
That one's just like, I'm not really like a dinosaur guy. I don't know. It's just, it's a kind of a weird animal to choose, but it's fine. It's that one's not a big deal. The Montreal Canadiens is a terrible brand. The Toronto Maple Leafs is a terrible brand, and the Vancouver Canucks is a terrible brand. For me,
what about the Calgary Flame? What about the Calgary Flame?
The Calgary Flames are okay. You know, that's true. They're not bad. I don't mind that one so much. But the problem is listen, I just don't want them. Understand you have a chance to grab a lot of the northeastern United States into your fan base here. You've got a big pool, and if you brand it Canadian, I won't care. I'm sorry, I won't care because the nationalism isn't super strong with me, but it's there, and yeah. So I'm just a little worried. Like if they're the Toronto Alouettes or whatever the stupid CFL, they're like, that's not Toronto, but you get my point.
Yeah,
It's just some terrible French Canadian name with like red and white color. Red and white colors might be okay. I might give them that and allow it, but I don't know. I'm really worried about the name very specifically. When I hear the name for the team, I'll be much more willing to buy all in. Colors can be a benefit. They don't have to be a downside. I can learn to love ugly colors.
What if the color is like a light brown and they're called like the maple syrup, like the Toronto maple syrup?
Flawless.
That would be a Canadian brand, so dead to me.
I don't know if there's anything I would love more than like the Canadian maple syrup. What if they're just called the Tim Hortons? That would just be great.
Toronto Tim Hortons. I mean, Tim Hortons is huge in Buffalo.
I love Tim Hortons.
So I can wrap my head around that. I would be mildly okay with that.
The Toronto sausage, egg, and cheese breakfast croissants is what I want them to be called.
I think Miami has that name locked down. Bacon, egg, and cheese biscuit or something like that. Wasn't that their name?
I don't know, but I'm getting really hungry right now. Just thinking about it. So, long story short, my Twitter is already Blevins is Toronto Owl #1 fanboy. So I already staked that claim. And if it's not true, I'm going to take down whoever made me think it was. Let's move on to our last piece of news here. We got the casters and desk announced for the Overwatch World Cup group stage. We also got the earlier in the week we got the list of events that are going to be going on at the World Cup. I don't know if it's in this link or not. If you guys can find the link with the events in the next couple of minutes, we can talk about that. But so we've got Golden Boy, we've got Malik, we've got Achilleos from EU, we've got Wolf, we've got ZP, we've got Leg Day, we've got Jaws, and the most maybe not surprising, as in we never thought it would ever happen, but kind of surprising in that it actually is happening, is on the desk we've got Jake. Yes, that Jake that is currently on the Houston Outlaws, at least until maybe an announcement or something comes. So it's an interesting little mix up here. We're not seeing, they're not just running the normal casting desk and crew here. Kyle, what do you think about this lineup we've got?
I think that World Cup has always been kind of the best route for players to make that leap from tier 2 to tier 1, and I think that same could be said for casters as well. I think that obviously Achilles and Wolf have been around a little bit longer than it seems like the other pair in Leg Day and Jaws has. And so I think maybe this gives them the opportunity to kind of, on a larger stage than just, Korean contenders stuff, kind of show what they have, and then if OWL is looking to expand however they do things, maybe not for season 2, but probably for season 3 when they start doing localization, maybe they're going to find some sort of way to have casters be split up in different regions and stuff like that. So I think that this is a good opportunity for these kind of newer-ish casters to kind of stake their claim and show everyone kind of what they have. And I think for Jake as well, I think it's a good it's a good way for him to kind of make those long-term plans because, he's got maybe 6 years, 7, 8 years max of Overwatch, playing in him, and then he needs to figure out some sort of, for the next like 20, 30 years, what he's going to do after that. And so if he's going to kind of get into the whole desk casting analyst thing, he'll be setting himself up for some, real good long-term job security kind of stuff.
Yeah. Death, what do you think about your boy Jake not suiting up and playing, but instead being on the desk?
I love it, honestly. I'm really excited to see him make a go of casting a little bit. Should be a whole lot of fun, just to kind of get that. I love the listening to players talk about strategy and things like that. I thought Reinforced was very insightful on the desk all season long from that perspective, just to kind of have that innate ability to understand and see some things that maybe your average analyst wouldn't be able to see. So I'm really excited for that. I mean, Jake's always been really well spoken. So it's, a lot of times with a player, I'd be a little worried, are they going to do even a remotely decent job? And Jake, but here I feel
They're
really
gonna be super awkward, and this is going to be awful.
Right. But I don't think that's a problem with Jake. And listen, I mean, if you want any more of a reason to like or hate Jake, whatever your opinion on it is of the guy, this is that for me. It's just another thing, that I expect him to do and do pretty well. And at the end of the day, one of my favorite things about Jake is he just seems like he's playing a different game than everybody else at all
He's playing 3D chess.
Right. Whatever he's doing, he's playing a different game. And right now he's like, oh, look at me. I've made it. I've got my esports career. I'm a player. I'm in the Overwatch League. I did it. And but he's like, but I'm not done when my career, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not done when I'm done playing.
Right.
He's setting himself up. He's playing the long game. Yeah, I could just see him like smirking when he agreed to do this, like just a classic Jake smirk. I don't know. I love it.
I feel like Jake is the guy that, like, at college orientation, like, he's going around and trying to talk to all the teachers and like sign up for clubs and stuff, where everyone else is just like, this is a sweet party, let's make friends, and he's just like, nope, I need to find the teachers. What club can I be the president of on day one? It's like, you always wonder how those people got those positions. Like, wait, aren't you also a freshman? I just got here. How did he's like, oh, I've been here for months, man. Like,
I do have to make the prediction that when Nate Nanzer retires as commissioner of the Overwatch League, Jake, in whatever position he's going to be in, and this is like a 20-year real long.
Yeah, this is the real long one.
Jake takes his spot.
I'm assuming he's not elected president by then, Kyle.
That's true.
That's true. I mean, what, Jake is what, 20?
Up there.
Yeah,
he's 22.
22, so that means in 10 years he can run for president. Oh no, sorry, 13 years he can run for president. Interesting. My bet here is that he is going to have that top button of his shirt buttoned, even though he's not wearing a tie. That's my by proxy. That's also Melorina's bet as well. But I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I think it's an interesting mix. The only thing I won't even say upset. I'm just a little bit sad that we won't be able to see run back is the Monty as the double crossing heel, saying that he's rooting for America and then revealing that it was actually Korea the whole time. It was good. It was good stuff.
It's good TV.
It was really great TV, and I was there and I was booing him a lot. But yeah, I don't remember. I don't think we talked about the events that were going on at the All-Star game.
It came out on Friday.
Oh yeah, this is I'm mixing up World Cup this is okay. I'm mixing up two things. That's probably why you guys gave that glazed over. What the hell are you talking about? Look, this is the casting for the Overwatch World Cup group stage. And in my mind, I was associating that with the All-Star game.
Oh, did you say you say they were for the All-Star game?
I might have said it. I don't know, but I've now corrected myself. But that was the other piece of news that I was trying to think about before that I couldn't think of. That we got the games for the Overwatch League All-Star weekend. the game modes, and I just don't remember what they are. I don't know. You can look it up on the
I have it
website.
up if you
Oh, you do
want.
have. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Rattle her
So,
off.
You got a 3v3 Lucio Showdown or Lucio Ball Showdown. You've got Mystery Heroes 6v6. I think that's the full, Atlantic Pacific All-Star teams. You've got the Widowmaker 1v1,
That's actually
which is
cool.
the four coaches, or the Pacific and Atlantic coaches will pick their four best widows.
That's.
You got the Talent Takedown, that's the one that I was really hoping for. That's your coaches for Pacific and Atlantic will pick the casters and analysts and desk personalities and stuff like that to play
That's
a
pretty
6v6
funny.
on King's Row, and then you have lockout elimination and then the regular All-Star game.
Yeah. So what's that? 4 out of 6 or 4 out of 7 are just complete Snorefests, and then there's 2 events that are actually, I guess 3. The caster event. So the caster event will be cool if they have the mics like open the whole time. Like have the mics be on so we can hear them, and just but they can swear and like all this. Just prepare them beforehand. Just tell them, hey, you're gonna be mic'd up. Be cognizant of what the caster shouldn't. I mean, have the players talking too. Just have them be cognizant that like you're going to be mic'd up. Like make it more like that. I'm not even going to go into the whole discussion that I did with so no, it doesn't matter.
Did they qualify who can play in the talent game?
I'm assuming it's just the Overwatch League casters, but I don't actually know.
Because I want to be a regular Overwatch League caster cast, and then I just want the last pick to be like ZP. And he comes out like the bad guy in the heel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that would be so much oh my god, they're bringing in a ringer from Contenders.
And his
like,
Pluppy, it's him wearing a Pluppy jersey with like a luchador mask.
Oh, that would be great too.
From...
Fraggy comes out in like an incognito thing, pretending to be Doa or something like that, and that would be the best.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fun they can have with that match in particular. I hope they do it.
There's so much fun they could have with that entire event, but we talked about that before. I really think they should play it over the top and like make it a fun event and just really not focus on the games that much. I mean, focus on the games in the moment, but like everything around the event should be in good fun and all that stuff. But all right, let's move on here, and we are going to be talking about the prospects from North America here. We're going to focus mostly on North America. I do believe we have a list. Do we have a list of some other? I think we had some Korean players as well.
We'll be looking, mostly at NA, since that's what we usually focus on, myself and Blevins. And then also that is a little bit the focus of the Blackwatch report, specifically on the NA scene. But we will also be looking at Korea and Europe a little bit, just to talk about some of the top end highlights of players we think can squeak in.
Yeah, so without further ado, let's just jump right in here. And this is the main reason why we brought in Kyle here. So Kyle, I'll let you take this one. You and Thorn Rain, of course, your Blackwatch Report co-hosts, have been keeping a little bit of a tab here on some prospects from NA. So why don't you just start and kind of talk over who you got?
So my number one pick and I don't even think that it matters, be it an expansion team of a completely new roster or just fit into another team. I feel like either way he goes, as long as it's not like NYXL or London Spitfire, he'll probably benefit the team in some sort of way.
Mm-hmm.
Even still he might, is Nene, who has been pretty much the best standout Widowmaker with a couple people close to him. Definitely top 2 Zarya, maybe top 5 Tracer in all of Contenders NA. Has had no real like bad flow moments, has had incredible like Carpe, I'm gonna 1v6 and kill the entire team when we thought we were losing the fight, but now it's won. He just has so much play potential and consistency on top of that, which is super important. Decent enough hero pool to fill the role. I think he has a decent enough balance. I mean, he's playing on XL2, who is an English and Korean team in terms of languages. So if you fit him onto an all Korean roster, he'll be fine. If you fit him onto an NA English speaking roster, he'll be fine there as well. So I think that's why he's up there, as well as my number 2, who's Panker. Basically the same type of performance, just in the main tank role.
Let me stop you quickly
Yeah,
before
go ahead. Do what
we
you
get
want to do.
into Panker. Nene, I think, is a really, really interesting player to talk about here, right? Especially because of who he plays for. He currently plays for NYXL2, and I want to give a quick shout out. NYXL2 versus, oh my God, who was the opponent the other night? NRG. That match was absolutely phenomenal. Make sure you watch it. Also, the Korean finals was fantastic as well. These contenders playoffs have been absolutely phenomenal.
They usually
Overwatch,
are, actually.
They usually are really good, but honestly, I think these last 2 matches I've seen, which was the finals of Korea and then that NRG XL2 matchup, were some of the best contenders matchups I've ever seen. So make sure you guys do check those out. But Nene specifically, I think, is really interesting because he's on XL2. Listen, we've talked to Bare Hands about this. He's not with the team anymore. I don't think XL's going to elevate this guy. I think they're going to let Nene go and get signed by whoever he wants, because I don't think there's anything that could have happened this season to stop them from signing Nanohana or Flower to their roster. I think it's what the players want. I think it's what the organization from the top down wants. I expect Nanohana to sign regardless of performance, everything like that. Like, I think his spot on XL2 was like a token position. I don't think they were scrimming with him a ton. I think he's just basically been, hey, we you're already on XL, so here, let's find a way to pay you, sort of a thing.
Right.
And then he was also able to sub and come in and be kind of a hype player, like a budget Pine role, you know what I mean? Like less involved, but kind of similar in the sense that, like, let's bring him in for one map and hope he pops off and makes a highlight reel play or something like that. I've never seen Nanohana come in, at the end of that match against NRG. You didn't see him. Did he play early on? I don't remember, Kyle.
He was playing, so he came in on season 1 like halfway through and was really underwhelming, partially due to the fact that he was just hyped up into oblivion, and you can't live up to that no matter how good you are. But even still, I think he was a little underwhelming, all that considered. And then even season 2, he looked better, but I think the fact that he was playing against Mangachu for that projectile spot, Mangachu is better than him at Hanzo definitively, Pharah definitively. Nanohana / Flower has the better Genji, but I think that, like, that's the only time you saw him in is when they needed a good Genji, and Mangachu is still, like, he's working on it. And so I think that Elk mentioned it on his thing that he did with Sideshow, on that, like, he imagines that Flower, Nanohana, is going to get called in to some team based purely off of the World Cup performance, and there's teams who are probably not going to look into his latest performance, and that might be a detriment to them as a team.
Yeah.
But even if NYXL does pick up him for just
DPS.
sitting the bench or whatever, then maybe you only bring him in if you need a Widowmaker and a Genji. Maybe that's the only reason.
Yeah, and listen, like I said, I don't have any way to prove it, but everything that Elk said, I agree with. I just think it's going to be XL that does it, because they know what they wanted from him and what they asked him to do. And I don't think it was, hey, be at every single XL2 scrim, be at, you know what I mean? All these different things. I think he was a kind of a bit of a token player for them since he arrived in contenders. And I don't know that XL really necessarily even wanted him to be, the contenders guy. They can keep him under the radar, things like that. It's a bit of a conspiracy theory thought that I have with it, but
a lot of people were thinking that before he was actually on XL2.
Right. And now, maybe it's just easier to sign him, right? Like, what's he going to do? Go elsewhere and get the same amount of money? Like, he's going to go with the players he knows and everything like that.
Right.
So I don't know. Could have been a master stroke by XL to lock down, potentially, if he goes back to last World Cup form, one of the best DPS players in the game. So we'll have to wait and see. But now the rest of this team here, we don't have to worry about whether or not XL is going to pick them up. But we talked a little bit about Mangachu, how well he's been performing. Blevins, you had him on your mid-season expansion team exercise that we did, either before or at the very beginning of Overwatch League. Anybody else here, Kyle? Do you see Mangachu fitting in and finding a home in Overwatch League? And is there anybody else on XL2 you think?
I think if the meta kind of stays in the same general realm that it has lately, I think that Mangachu has a pretty solid spot. His particular hero pool as of before season 2 of Contenders was kind of like, why is he playing all of these heroes that no one plays? Like Hanzo was out, Mei was pretty much out, Far was even not that super popular, but now all of those heroes are now popular, and so I think he's got a solid spot because he has been in the background kind of playing these heroes a ton. But other than that, I think that you can't ignore the fact that you have 2 OWL level players that have been kind of kicked down because they were the second best players on the absolute best team in Wuyal and Tizzy. Both of them have had pretty good performances, specifically Wuyal. I feel like Tizzy obviously didn't get the Overwatch League level because he didn't play a single game. But he's looked solid. Wuyal has looked solid as well. And then Adam and Goliath, I think. Adam is the player who has been consistently on my why is he not in Overwatch League list, and I think that it was brought up that he's kind of just does his job perfectly, and because of that, no one notices him as a main support. So he's probably the other person I'd put on that list. Goliath is pretty good, but I don't think he's anywhere near the same Zens, or the same players in his role in Contenders. So I feel like you should pick a couple players before you pick him.
Yeah, the only thing I want to go back to Nene for a second, and kind of in the same vein, Flower and Nanohana is yes, they're on XL2, and because of that, NYXL proper has right of first refusal. They can either make them two-way players or they can sign them full on and go through that. But if you're signing Nene and or Flower to NYXL, if I'm one of those players and I look at that roster, do I think I'm going to be starting or playing over SBB?
No.
Probably not. Now, I mean, I'm perfectly willing and actually ready to see huge changes happen, huge changes in roster shifts and swings in this off season. I'm also ready for it to remain almost completely stagnant and have teams run back almost exactly what they did before with one or two key exclusions. I don't know how many. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm not going to say those words because then it might actually happen, and I don't want that. But
rude.
If I think Soul is going to get shook up, and I don't think we're going to be seeing Fissure and Purple this next season unless an expansion team is also Purple. So it's just is from XL's side, what do they gain from picking up Nene? They get to basically deny another team him, which I get. But from Nene's perspective, do I want to go on a team? I want to be in Overwatch League, but do I want to be on an Overwatch League bench? Or do I want to go to Guangzhou with Fissure and maybe Rio Jaehong or something? like all these people jumping ship and start a new team, even though NYXL has right of first refusal. I don't know. I don't know if I see it happening.
Yeah,
so.
I can only imagine that NYXL realize that they have potential both in their main roster and on their Contenders roster, and that they can sell that for a good amount of money, and then it'll still be worth it for them, even if they don't have them on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very real chance they could use their right of first refusal to sign a player and sell them. I think that's definitely something.
That's true. That is very true.
So something to keep an eye on, and something I fully if we see a player like Adam get signed, Adam, as good as he is, I don't think you plug him into a full Korean roster, and you know what I mean, expect him to learn Korean.
Right.
So I think if we see them sign any of their American or non-Korean speaking players, I think that's a sure sign that that's what they're like.
Trade fodder, and
to use it for trades.
Especially a player like Mangachu, who's from, I believe, the Toronto area, but definitely Greater Ontario area, which is where Toronto's in the province of Ontario. If I'm Mangachu, man, it would be I could play for the New York team, or like I'm gonna go to the Buffalo team. Like just trade me to the Buffalo team so I can live in. But like, just let me do it, or to the Toronto team in his case, or I guess in my case too. I'd love to live in Toronto.
Blevins, what's our run time at right now?
50 minutes.
50 minutes. Holy smokes. Okay. So, Kyle, I want to talk to you a little bit about the team that they're going to be playing against in the finals, XL2, specifically Fusion University. They've been at the top of contenders really since Overwatch League started. They've been really, really hyped up and had a very big fan base. They were in the finals of season 1, won it, right? Didn't they?
Yeah.
Pretty sure?
Oh,
yep. So they've got a lot of really interesting talent here, and I think on this team there's some players that won't be 18 in time.
Yes,
so
that's correct.
maybe you can help us dig through the bottom of that, know who's going to be eligible to be promoted and who you think's likely to be promoted off Fusion.
So you have immediately, I would argue, probably the 2 best players on this team are Alarm and Who Are You. Both of them are not eligible for Season 2, are eligible for Season 3 at the earliest.
Really?
Yes, and Alarm being probably the best Zenyatta NA contenders. Who Are You? Genji's kind of in the meta now, and literally just watched the Toronto game, and he just rolls through everyone. Literally, Nanoblade win a fight, Nanoblade win a fight. He is phenomenal at that. He popped off on the Tracer at the LAN finals last season. Both phenomenal players. No one can have them, sorry. You have Zachary, who phenomenal Widowmaker. Tracer, pretty good McCree, pretty good Sombra. Pretty solid hero pool altogether. I think that I don't know if he replaces anyone Overwatch League right now, but expansion team, I can absolutely see it. Elk, if he's not on a team, I'm mad. I'm like genuinely mad, because not only is his play phenomenal, I broke down a play on the Blackwatch breakdown of him like perfectly predicting the EMP coming out, popped around the corner, immediately sound barrier, saves his team. Not only is his play phenomenal, but his leadership and understanding of the game is just next level. When we had him on Blackwatch Report, I felt dumb talking to him. I feel like I know a decent amount about Overwatch League, and he was just miles above me in terms of game knowledge. Beast Halo, he's a phenomenal tank if you want a tank to create space. He's not like a Fisher tank, in where Fisher he makes his own space and then takes advantage of it. Beast Halo, he'll set up his DPS, and so if that's what you're looking for, him and Bernard are a phenomenal combo. But if you want someone to straight carry your team, there's another tank that I can give you.
And who is that?
That is Panker. Mini Fisher. He's easily like Mini Fisher, in my opinion. So if you want to get into that, we can, or if you want to finish up on Fusion, we can.
Oh, no, he's definitely good. I was just going to kind of open it up after that for a broader conversation. We're not going to go team by team through it, but I wanted to talk to you about the 2 specifically. But anybody else, obviously Panker, but anybody else from any of the other teams that performed well, NRG, Gladiators, Legion, Team Envy, LNL, any of those teams you want to, any players you want to give a shout out that you think are likely to make it?
Gods and Panker, I think, are probably a phenomenal duo pickup if that's what you're looking to kind of do for expansion teams and stuff like that. As well as if you are, Gladiators, the OWL team, and you want to just fill that Fisher spot, Panker's fine in there too. Because you don't need another, if you have Void, if you have Bishu, if you keep both of them and you don't trade away Void because you want to be with Fisher, then yeah, you don't need to pick up Gods. Gods can go to another team and be fine. Sugar Free is a player that I would absolutely love to see, but he's like 14. He is like the hard carry for LNL. He's so definitively just he's gonna be like Mr. $300,000 at least when he turns 18. As long as he continues up on the same path he's on. But then
he's got to pass his regents first, though.
Yeah, I have a weird one, and that is the best Widowmaker in. Maybe the best Widowmaker who doesn't ever normally play Widowmaker, and that is Shu, who's Toronto Esports' Zenyatta player. Literally can 1v1 Buds and destroy him. Literally can 1v1 Nene and get the better of him at times. He's a Zenyatta player and is solid. He's the Toronto Esports Zen. Who cares? he is just absolutely phenomenal. It's a weird switch. It's a weird thing to see, but when you need to have that solo support, which we kind of see a lot, more often, and if you want to have him not play Roadhog, like a lot of Zens are doing now, you can throw him on Widow, expect him to get ridiculous picks. He played against, I think it was NRG on Junkertown in the semifinals last season. It is like the coolest map because he just carries them throughout the entire way. I think other than that, I know that it seems like main tanks is kind of the only other big spot, and the second best definitively main tank is Swan, who's formerly known as Butcher. And he's playing for NRG, and he is pretty good. Not as good as Panker, but really, really good. So that's kind of my big names I have so far. I've talked about pretty much everyone else.
Nice. Yeah, I know we had a list of some Korean talent as well, but we're running a little short on time, so we'll maybe save that for another episode, or maybe bring that up once the trade season really starts. Death, any last words on pickups, prospects, all that good stuff?
No, I'm just really excited to see how the players that get added kind of change the comps and the styles of some of these teams. Somebody like Panker specifically kind of has his own composition to him right now. The way he's running Hammond with the Diva as a main tank has been a lot of fun to watch and see kind of develop. So I'm really curious to see what these guys are going to do. And the big thing about the exciting part about this to me is that I could see any other range of outcomes. Like, I don't just assume these players are going to be able to come in and make a big sweeping impact on Overwatch League, but I think there's definitely a couple players that could, and it's probably not the ones we would expect to based off of their contenders performance. Like, I'm just really enamored by the whole process and really excited to watch it play out, because I think some of the highest rated players might find themselves in bench spots, and then other players that were kind of in the middle tier, and a lot of people were thinking, why did they sign them?
We saw that in Overwatch League Season 1.
Starters. Right.
We saw the Sleepies, the Notes, all those guys kind of rise to fame.
Yep, and I just want to see that keep happening, because that to me was easily some of the funnest parts about Overwatch League, was the unexpected. So I just hope that continues to shake out.
And those people are sleeper picks for fantasy, just saying. I mean, I do think we are absolutely going to see a good number of these contenders players be major impacts in Overwatch League Season 2, if for no other reason than we have 6 teams we need to fill right now. And I don't think we're going to see the Overwatch League teams just break off and give those players out. I think we're going to see a lot of, at least some of these teams are going to be almost entirely contenders players, with maybe a couple of Overwatch League veterans, but I don't think it's going to be too much. We've got a little bit of time. Do we want to go over the patch notes? We had a new patch on August 9th with some significant changes. Maybe we can just kind of gloss over some of the important stuff.
Yeah, this is the one they were calling the support patch, wasn't it? Yeah. So,
I don't know what they were calling it.
There was a lot of changes. We'll focus on the supports. I'll kind of run through them really briefly here. Ana's Nano Boost now instantly heals the target for 300 HP. The range has been increased from 30 to 40 meters, so a sizable buff to the Nano Boost ability here. Honestly, I was playing with this as a main tank, and it was something that I didn't necessarily think would be a huge deal. But the ability to see that tank drop low and then hit him with it, and you do it after you threw a grenade. So you go grenade, Nano Boost, and all of a sudden your tank just gained 450 HP.
It's almost like a res, right?
It's great, and it was just, it's meant a ton. And I think it's done a lot more for Ana's viability than I really expected it to so far in my experience playing it. As a result, we've seen some Ana Lucio comps and contenders and things like that have been a lot of fun to see. So anything you can do to kind of break up the Mercy Zen of the Overwatch League support meta, I think would be great for a lot of players specifically, as well as teams, things like that, and just the viewers too. It'll be a much better experience. But Brigitte got a slight change. The cooldown was increased from 6 to 7 seconds on Shield Bash. And then there's the other thing is just like
a quality of life thing. Yeah,
an option you can do. We don't need to worry about that. Let's see, Lucio's crossfade, the aura was The aura radius was increased from 10 to 12 meters. This undoes a little bit of the kind of major change they made to Lucio previously, where they really reined in the aura's range but made it more potent. This is going to really help Lucio be much more viable in a lot of team fights. I think that 2 meters so far has meant a world of difference so far. Also, the sound barrier, the ultimate ability, temporary shields granted increased from 500 to 750.
Plus 50%.
Plus 50% is a big buff to the ultimate. So Lucio got a significant power level boost here from this. And when you think about like hitting all 6 people with it, that's a lot of HP.
Yeah.
1,500, something like that, I think. Matt, I was told there'd be no math, so sorry if that's wrong. But it's a big deal in a team fight to add that much extra HP. That's why his ultimate was so good to begin with, and in its old form. Like the ultimate being bad isn't why Lucio stopped seeing play. So I think this is just going to really give him, hopefully, the needed boost he needs to come back. Because even as a support player, I'm finally missing Lucio a little bit. Like it just happened like last week.
We did have a long time where he was 99 to 100% playable. So I think he's had a nice little break, but I'd like to see him back. He's one of my all-time favorites to play.
And as far as team play went, he was 100% my main for like beta through, I don't even know. It was disgusting.
Yeah.
Mercy got a change here as well. Caduceus staff, the healing beam was reduced from 60 HP per second to 50. I'll just kind of read the developer comments on this one. Mercy's previous healing output made her nearly irreplaceable in any team composition, or the res. Even after this change, she will still be able to deliver more healing over the course of a match than any other support hero, but it should allow for other healers to be more viable. Hopefully that pans out again, I really think. And from playing so far, when I have the Ana, and I've been playing with Jay Lee, shout outs to Jay Lee this week a little bit, a really good Ana player. But man, I just missed the res. Like it's so hard in fights when you're 7v6. It's kind of a brutal situation. So I question whether or not the Mercy change is enough to push her out. Moira, on the other hand, got Biotic Grasp. The passive energy regeneration rate has been increased from 2 seconds to 2 per second to 2.4 per second. A very small change, but again, it was
Definitely
really kind of the only time Moira was not super viable, right? It was when she runs out of gas. So this is going to help her regen that a little bit. If she didn't ever run out of gas, she would be way overpowered. So it's good that, there's definitely need a good limit there. And I'm glad they're incrementally messing with that, because it could very quickly move into like all Moira all the time if they change that number too much.
Death Ball just gets so much from that heal. Like everyone's like, oh, well, she can do so much damage. It's like, no, man, that's not the scary part. It's the bathing your entire team in health at once in a very quick rate is what is very scary about her.
Yeah, some other small changes here to some other heroes. When we look at Zarya, it's a smaller radius on the grav, down from 8 to 6 meters, but she does lose her energy at a slower rate now, which is really nice for her. Widowmaker got a grappling hook cooldown increase. Symmetra's still in a really weird spot. Sombra is, let's see, okay, so that's not this patch that they made her infinite stealth. Reinhardt got some weird things that I heard called a nerf, but I've yet to feel them like a nerf when I've played them. Hanzo's lunge cooldown was increased from 4 to 5 seconds, and Doomfist basically is no longer a buggy nightmare against the new Symmetra.
Yeah.
Other than that, I don't think there's really anything else.
They changed. This is actually, it's a small change, but it's like an overall like shift in how a lot of things work. Some ultimate abilities now just restore ammunition after completing for some heroes. So Genji's Dragon Blade, Junkrat's Riptire, Pharah's Barrage, Roadhog's Whole Hog, and Zenyatta's Transcendence, as well as Winston's Primal Rage. After you use those, you're just going to come back at full ammo. This is, I mean, obviously it's a buff in some ways because you can unload your clip, then use your ult as basically a reload. We've seen we've seen compilations of Pine like getting a bunch of kills, high nooning, canceling it immediately, and then just using it as a faster reload to just pop off again. So now I mean I don't think you can cancel. I guess you can technically cancel Junkrat's Riptire. That's the only one that you would technically be able to do that. It's really more of like a quality of life thing where after you have this really long alt, you don't have to immediately. They say the developers say the change removes the need to immediately reload after a long duration ultimate, because like I don't remember what my clip was at, 20 seconds ago when I'm running around with this clip, or after I've gone halfway across the entire map as Winston in Primal Rage. But yeah, I mean, besides that, we now have Hammond in competitive mode. He's live in competitive, so that's cool. If you want to talk we've still got maybe 5 or 10 more minutes if we want to talk about. I know you guys were mentioning in the pre-show a comp that features a lot of Hammond. Do you guys want to talk about that?
Yeah, Kyle, why don't you give us the comp, what that's looked like?
The Hammond.
So we've seen it in the Korean finals. We saw some Hammond from both teams, both in the off tank and I think the main tank slot a little bit, but not as much as we saw it from Gladiators Legion, who literally played one team comp for an entire best of 5. And that was
impressive.
Yes, it was. I mean, they changed one hero once. It was a Lucio and an Ana as your supports. Of course, Mercy being out because of speed in this comp is super duper strong, as well as Zenyatta is so easy to kill. Ana has a little bit more self-sustain, so that's why you bring her. You had Panger on the Hammond, and then Gods on the Diva. And then you had Blase on the Doomfist, which is interesting to see Doomfist kind of coming back into the mix here with Corey on the Sombra. Sombra is pretty big in this latest patch, it seems like, and just because of her infinite invisibility and the translocator, she's more just annoying than she is high damage. She's mostly just like utility, it seems like. But like this comp is basically like the hardest dive comp you will ever see in your life. It is so you can't like it's with old dive with like your 2017 dive, you can kind of like soft dive, pressure dive. No, not with this. You dive so hard. You have to you commit a bunch of cooldowns as the Hammond to get into the back line, do all the damage. Doomfist, same thing. You've got a anti-heal nade coming in as well. So it's such a strong comp that if you're that's why you don't play Zen, because then it's gonna die instantly to anything like that. So that's my take on it.
That's intense, because that's almost like it's almost like a combo of like you need to be very ready, aware, and coordinated to do it, and it is very, very glass cannon feeling, it seems.
Yes.
Where it's like it does a ton of damage, but if someone is off kilter, or like Philly Fusion in the finals just have their main tank just like off in the wrong spot because he thought that they were gonna dive when they weren't, the comp's not gonna work.
So punishable.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing too about, and that's the thing that Thorn and I were like kind of wondering about, is why haven't we seen this in a DPS spot? We've seen it as an off tank, but then you're benching a diva, which is like, I don't know about that. You pretty much always have to play diva in like any comp, and it will only benefit you. But you're losing shields if you're replacing a Winston or a Reinhardt with a Hammond, and so we were kind of wondering why we didn't see it in that like off DPS that's not playing your Sombra, so you're running like a Sombra Diva Winston with the Hammond. I feel like that would have been possibly a doable comp, but maybe people just haven't figured that out yet, or maybe there's just a terrible, there's a reason why it's absolutely terrible. I haven't yet, figured that out.
Hey, that's the beauty of it, is that it could be either, or it could be either one of those situations where they just haven't tried it yet.
I'm an idiot.
Yeah, one or the other. But yeah, that's going to bring us right about to time here. Do you guys have any last minute stuff that we absolutely need to cover this week?
No, just a big thanks to Kyle for joining us, being a part of the episode, and helping catch us up. We love to watch contenders, but we like our off season, and Overwatch League Season 1 definitely drained me a little bit. So I haven't seen as much of contenders as I would have liked to. And yeah, we like to try to be at least a little accurate or knowledgeable when we give information. Wanted to talk about some of the signings that would happen. So big thanks to Kyle for joining us. Thorn, we didn't forget about you. Kyle just answered the summons first, so we'll make sure we get you in next time.
Yeah, we got to get Big Kef on here himself. But yeah, so guys, make sure that you go and follow Blackwatch Report. Kyle, where can people find you and the Blackwatch Report on the interwebs?
Blackwatch Report is on Twitter as Blackwatch Report, no Owen Report, because Thorin messed up when he made the Twitter. If you want to find me and follow me, I occasionally post stuff Overwatch related at Kyle the Winner. Winner spelled Wynner because I think I'm clever. We're Blackwatch Report, no the. This time it's just Blackwatch Report on Twitch. One of these days we'll like make friends at Twitter and Twitch and have them kind of make everything consistent.
It's apparently quite hard to do.
I hate to tell you guys, Twitter, you can just freely change your handle whenever you want. So
even the @ or whatever the opposite one is.
Yeah, you can.
Thorn Rain, if you were listening.
How do Twitter 101?
You can literally change it right now as long as it's not already taken. As long as it's not. Oh, the name is too long. Yeah, I've ran into that before. But that's not something we need to talk about here. Again, huge shout outs to Kyle for his expert analysis here. But guys, that is going to be it. Make sure to follow the Blackwatch Report. If you're not already following them on iTunes, you can. They have their own feed, own podcast feed. Make sure that you go to wherever you find podcasts and follow them and subscribe to them there. You guys can, while you're there, just sign up for all of the High Noon production shows. High Noon Podcast, Around the Payload, Foul Play, which will be coming back as soon as we have the ability to play the game, which will hopefully be getting more news next season. So we're in the off season, obviously, for that. But
hey, signing window's open. If we start getting news, there's no reason there won't be a Foul Play episode that drops.
Yeah,
I can't even say it won't happen in the next couple weeks, honestly, if we start getting enough signing news.
Yes, we will be doing that as well. And guys, you can always support the show financially if you want to. Go over to patreon.com/High Noon Podcast. But that is going to be it for Kyle, for Deathblow. I am the Blevins. And remember, it's High Noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. Threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
Okay, I figured it out. Monty is going to be unannounced for anything, just conspicuously missing, and then at the actual event he's going to rise from like inside of the stage up and be like the MC/maincaster. That's what's going to happen. You heard it here first.
I can see it.